Dr. Maggie, hi. I want to tell you something. I personally found you while finding your videos talking about the link between hormones and autoimmunity. This is something nobody's really talking about.
Mhm.
So, what is this big link between autoimmune issues and hormones?
Inquiry minds want to know. Here we go.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us once again for Autoimmune Table Talk Live. I'm your co host, Anne Emanuel.
And I'm Dr. Maggie, UMD.
And Dr. Maggie, we've had some really interesting discussions over the last several weeks. Really powerful a couple weeks ago, talking about your own autoimmune journey and your timeline. And then people needed more. We wanted to dive deeper into how you created food mapping as a part of this.
Yeah.
This week, we want to continue the discussion of how your own journey led you to developing this program all around hormones. And really, you have a story involved with that we want to get into as well, with your own personal journey. And it really starts before you were even born with your mother's pregnancy.
Yeah. So everybody at Maggie UMD, functional and holistic medicine, and creator of Transform the Protocol and the Facebook group Transform Autoimmune Disease Naturally. If you guys haven't joined the Facebook group, go ahead and click the link above or below this video and join the Facebook group to get wonderful live content, bonus trainings just like this. And if you're watching from YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Instagram, give us a follow. And today, we're going to share my story about this. And you're absolutely right, Anne. It really starts even before we're born. There's a whole big world of genetics that I think is really missing. And I think it's important to talk about it because it not only affects us when we look back at our own genetics, but it affects and impacts our children. I would love, there's so many alumni that are watching right now. If you're an alumni and you're watching, I would love for you to comment in the comment section below what autoimmune struggles you have and what are some of the hormonal symptoms that you're overcoming or what your experience in the program has been. If you have taken my Hormone MasterClass, I'd love for you to comment in the comment section below about our specific program for hormones called my Hormone MasterClass and what your experience has been. So many of you have taken my Hormone MasterClass as well. And then the rest of you, if you have hormonal symptoms, autoimmune issues, and you feel ignored, I'd love as we go through, if you have questions or ahas or symptoms you'd love to share, go ahead and put it in the comment section right now below. That'd be super helpful. All right. So before I was born, when we look back, my mom lived in Hong Kong. And when I look back at my mom's struggle during pregnancies, if you think about it, she was only 18 when she had me. And I was born premature. So I was born almost like about 7 months. And I was tiny. They said my head was like a tiny little mandarin orange.
Oh my goodness.
And, premature birth, right?
And that's
Miscarriage.
your mom. That was your mom right there with you and your
Yeah.
sister.
And yeah. And I lost my mom to ALS, which we all now are learning more and more how ALS is linked with autoimmunity as well. So here's the thing. My mom had issues with her pregnancy with me. And postpartum, after she had me, she was very, very sick. And very soon after got pregnant with my sister and nearly died because she was really sick and had chronic infection while she was going through my sister's pregnancy.
Yes.
And so it's not an accident that people with autoimmune disease like me have moms or dads that have autoimmunity and hormonal struggles of their own.
Mm-hmm.
Postpartum on both children, my mom struggled with severe symptoms dealing with either infection or even trying to have a healthy pregnancy. And it's so interesting because, 30 years later, here I was going through the same rigmarole.
Right.
Yeah.
History repeating itself. And I know you'll talk more about it, but your program offers an opportunity for people to stop it in its tracks and to not have that repeated for the next generation. But so yes, your mom struggled with hormonal issues. And then you, once you hit your teenage years, also had issues.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Listen to the story because now I've been through it. These lessons were paid for with blood, sweat, and tears. So wisdom isn't cheap. It's earned for and paid for. And when I look back at my own teenage years, now I can look at my own kids, and now I'm able to help other people and their teenagers or their young adults going through this, right? So these are patterns that have been missed as I was growing up. When I was a teenager, that was a long time ago. Um, I mean, lo and behold, that teenager on the left there, that was me. And I was struggling with severe depression,
Mm.
anxiety, huge mood shifts, mood swings. My mom was like, get her to a psychiatrist, get her to talk to somebody. Like something's going on. Like my kid, I lost my kid to her hormonal mood swings. I think it was the first time in our family where there was actually mental health issues really popped up, and my family didn't know what to do with it, nor knew that it was hormonally related. At that time, I had no idea that I had Hashimoto's. My mom had no idea she has Hashimoto's, but yet it was showing up generationally. My mom during pregnancy and postpartum issues, and it was showing up in me as a teenager with depression, anxiety. Also, I was having ADD type symptoms. And I mentioned before my previous stories that as a younger child, I had a lot of ADD type symptoms, was the class clown, could not focus for the life of me. And then as a teenager, I had heavy periods that were irregular, a lot of cramping, and really just severe PMS and weight swings as well, back and forth. So these are some of the symptoms that are really common. And what I find is that when we are dealing with the men and women that are in our program, a lot of times their teenagers are suffering from the exact same patterns they are. So I always tell people that when you actually learn about how to test your hormones, what kind of patterns it is. It's literally like looking at your child and giving them, you took one for the team and now you learned it. And now you're going to apply that knowledge to your children, and you're going to kill Godzilla while he's an egg 30 years earlier. So why not do that? Why wait till he's running all around town and like messing up your hormones, postpartum, early menopause, whatever later. So it's a unique opportunity to really understand how hormones in a teenager could be very early manifestations of autoimmunity, especially if you're a mom or dad dealing with autoimmune disease.
That was a question I had. Is it a
Yeah.
manifestation where it's kind of this warning sign of later on you may get this? Or is it also something that's helping to contribute to the creation of autoimmunity in you?
It's actually kind of both.
Okay.
So it's really interesting because if one of the most common, there are a lot of common patterns that your doctors miss, right? They don't check your hormones. They put all our teenage girls on birth control pills.
Mhm.
They put 40, 50-year-old women and keep them on birth control pills, even though we know it increases cardiovascular, cancer, stroke type risk to give synthetic hormones at such high doses. But that's the only solution that they have.
Right.
So, but the issue for me is that when you see a teenager, some of these patterns are already there, whether it's estrogen dominance, PCOS, there's multiple different types of patterns. Really commonly in teenagers, we see PCOS as one of the patterns, especially if you have an autoimmune disease mom or dad. And I'm just going to make this fact really big, and no other doctor have said this on the planet. And I wish you guys could really hear this, which is that these patterns, especially like PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. And in a teenager, if you want to know what the checklist for those symptoms are, we have a hormone checklist. Write the hormone checklist in the comment section and check your message request. We can get the hormone checklist for you, where you can look at hormone changes at any age in a checklist, right? But if someone has PCOS as a teenager, did you know that polycystic ovarian syndrome is and will turn into prediabetes and then diabetes? And what is diabetes? An autoimmune disease.
An autoimmune disease, and people also don't realize that. Listen, your story already resonating. Cindy saying she experienced a lot of the same things growing up, and I can relate to a lot of what you're saying too. I think so many people out there think back to their teenage years and when they first started menstruating and
Yeah.
having these irregularities and not realizing at all that this could one day be a part of future autoimmune disease.
Well, that's the pattern that I see over and over again. And it's so interesting. It doesn't even matter which autoimmune disease you have. Like I happen to have Hashimoto's, right? And that's not an uncommon autoimmune disease. Most people with autoimmune of disease of any kind have actually autoimmune issues with their thyroid as well. It's just not diagnosed, and their doctors don't understand how to test and diagnose it. But here's the thing, if you have an autoimmune issue with your thyroid, then what's the likelihood that your immune system is mistaking other hormone making organs as a germ? 100%.
100%. We learned that from you because people don't realize that Hashimoto's is actually very much connected to hormones. You talked about how it's signaling to all of your hormone making organs to sort of malfunction in a certain way, right?
Correct. So if you're in Hashimoto's, this is just one example, one autoimmune disease, but we're going to talk about some case studies of any autoimmune symptom or diagnosis or no diagnosis. Okay. It applies to every autoimmune issue. Is that it's just a good example because your body's like looking at your thyroid and says, oh, you're German, I'm going to kill you. But the thing is, these cells look just like your ovaries, looks just like your adrenals, look just like your pancreas, which makes insulin. So this is why a lot of people with Hashimoto's develop diabetes.
Mm.
A lot of diabetics are actually Hashimoto's or autoimmune disease of the thyroid. A lot of diabetics have really messed up ovarian hormones. Oh my gosh, totally. That's Nikki. And she graduated from a program about a year ago. Oh my God, I missed you, girl. Nikki had PCOS, actually classic case, diabetes, and she also has celiac. And it was like one thing after another after another. And these are all connected. They're not separate. It's not like she's some super special rare zebra with this rare combination. I freaking talk to somebody like her at least 3, 4 times. Our team talks to someone like her 3 to 4 times a week. How many of you out there are dealing with PCOS or have had diabetes or you have Hashimoto's or have celiac? And you know these things are linked, but it's like the holy grail of it is the whole idea that it's all linked by autoimmunity and that balancing your hormones and that these are all attack against hormone making organs and other autoimmune organs, and it's one systemic disease, is really what's missing. I mean, nobody, I mean, think about this. Nikki, all right? How many of you are diabetics out there, okay? Or pre-diabetes? Type in chat right now. Nikki, who's a diabetic, would go see her primary care endocrinologist who says, oh, you don't have any hormone problems. You don't have anything wrong with you with that. With you got heavy periods, migraines, weight gain. There's nothing wrong with you. Let's throw in some birth control pills. How about that? You put someone with autoimmune disease of the thyroid and also polycystic ovarian syndrome who already have high hormones, and you throw a shit ton of fake hormones at them, what do you think is going to happen?
The body's going to really malfunction, it sounds like.
And that's the typical treatment that we treat women with autoimmune disease with these kinds of patterns with. They're completely ignored. What the hell is causing these hormone imbalances? Doesn't matter what, we don't even check the hormones. We don't care it's PCOS with high hormones. We're going to give them some fake synthetic higher hormones to suppress their own hormones, and that's going to fix it? Wrong, wrong, dead wrong. And this is why people, she might have started out with Hashi's, but she will end up 10, 20 years later with, oh, now she has celiac. Now she has neuropathy. Now she has depression. Now she has Raynaud's. It's like the list keeps piling on because no one understands what is the underlying root cause is that many of our hormonal issues are caused by autoimmune attack against our hormone making organs.
And I want to bring it back to your journey once again, because you mentioned diabetes. Okay, so we talked about your struggles in your teenage years with these heavy periods and irregularities. And then you went on as a young adult during your pregnancies. Well, first, I think you might have even had some fertility issues. Is that correct?
This is the thing. I mean, it blows my mind how many people don't realize that fertility issues and miscarriages are really linked with autoimmune disease. I had no idea. And, you know, and even your reproductive endocrinologists who are helping you get pregnant, they don't give a rat's ass that's related to autoimmunity because you know what? There's nothing they can do about it. So, but that's not true. Oh my God, this is Sky's. This is Sky's baby. And, you know, like we have a lot of people that come into our program that have struggled with infertility or miscarriages. And what you find is when they balance, test, learn, and balance their hormones, guess what? They can actually have regular ovulation, get pregnant, and keep their pregnancies. I love that.
And a lot of people I know, I can personally relate. I struggled for years with infertility,
Right?
and went through IVF cycles, which probably was only making my underlying autoimmune issues worse because now I'm getting blasted with huge amounts of hormones. And it's like you said, a reproductive endocrinologist has one job mainly to try to get you pregnant, right? And
Mhm.
isn't thinking about all of these other underlying issues that might be going on. In fact, I was tested through my reproductive endocrinologist for autoimmunity, and it wasn't found at the time, even though I did have it. So everything you're saying absolutely resonates. And it is just so rewarding to see that alumni who have gone through your program then are able to turn this around, have their hormones balanced, and then everything falls into place. In fact, can even get pregnant.
Well, here's the thing though. The trick isn't just to get pregnant. The thing is to keep that pregnancy. In
True.
our family, miscarriages ran in our family. And we didn't know we had autoimmunity. So we had trouble getting pregnant in our family. That runs in the women in my family. And we also had miscarriages,
Mm.
right? And not to even mention that we also have kids who are going to be much higher risk of having allergy problems, eczema,
Mhm.
asthma, also spectrum disorder, ADD, you name it. That's my entire family.
You and I both have it. We both have children with those issues. And so
Right.
everything you're saying, it's not like you're making this up. There are case study after case study, and I know you saw them in your own private practice as well.
Well, and this is interesting. How this all started, believe it or not, guys, was that when I was 36, I mean, postpartum, both my pregnancies, I had severe symptoms.
Mm.
After my first pregnancy, I had mastitis, infection. People with autoimmune disease, way more chance of getting infection. I had a breast infection called mastitis, took an antibiotic, which then gave me a really bad secondary infection called C. diff, which instead of clearing like in 6 or 8 or 14 days, took me 18 months to clear because I was full-blown autoimmune attack and had no idea. So my immune system was attacking my thyroid, my hair, my joints, everything. And I was just told as a doctor, I was already a doctor then, oh, Maggie, this is normal after pregnancy. I didn't even have my thyroid checked. None of my doctors was willing to check my thyroid or for autoimmunity. It was as if, oh, this is normal, what
Mhm.
postpartum women are supposed to go through. No, it's not. Okay. None of that is normal. Okay. And so many of these signs are missed or dismissed
Mhm.
as normal postpartum symptoms. It's
You're
not true.
I was told the hair loss is completely normal, and almost all of my friends were experiencing something similar and being told that's just normal postpartum. But what you're saying is no, this should not be happening in this way.
Not all women who deliver babies have hair loss. And the ones that do, and the ones that have all these other issues, you better start to pay attention that that huge hormonal shift when you deliver the baby is triggering an autoimmune attack. Do you guys know that the number one cause of autoimmune attack in women, and we'll talk about men later, but in women is related to big times of hormonal shifts dropping or rising? This is why teenage girls, as their hormones are revving up, are at really high risk for being diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, celiac disease, joint issues,
Mm.
PCOS, diabetes. This is not an accident that that is a hormonally vulnerable time for a teenage girl. And conversely, every monthly cycle, certain times of the month, if your autoimmune symptoms are worse, it's because hormones is your major trigger.
And
Okay.
so many people can relate to that. I know personally, Dr. Maggie, as I'm going through my monthly cycle, I can feel my autoimmune systems flare up at specific times. And I've talked to my functional medicine doctor about it, who has said to me, and get this, I'm willing to admit I am not a hormone expert, and you need to find someone who is that can help you.
I
She can
love that
only get me so
point.
far. And I do appreciate that she's willing to admit that. And that's truthfully how I found you, because there is just nobody else that really understands the intricacies of these connections.
Well, so here's the thing. Just because someone's a naturopath or a functional medicine doctor or an endocrinologist or someone who's a reproductive endocrinologist trying to get you help you get pregnant doesn't make any of them number one hormone experts. I really want you guys to hear this. Okay. Those are the people that are taught not to test your hormones. Those are the people that are taught to dismiss that it's hormonally linked. Those are people that are taught to just prescribe you some birth control pills and call it good and also put you on an antidepressant. I know because I was one of them,
Yeah.
right? I was one of those doctors. And a damn good doctor. I cared, but there was nothing else in my training that taught me that there was an alternative until I became one of those women that needed the birth control pill and the crazy making pills, right? So I want to make it a point is that it took me going through all that and we can go into later, to become my own hormone expert, and then to be able to treat other women and men with hormone issues, to be over the last 26 years of my career, to really become a true hormone balancing expert. And
Mhm.
I love the fact that, Anne, you went to an endocrinologist. Not
Mhm.
you went to
I've
a
been to, yeah, I've
functional
been to an endocrinologist and a reproductive endocrinologist and
and a functional.
a functional medicine doctor, and no one has been able to help me. And I've been saying over and over again,
Yeah,
screaming it as loud as I can, I know there's a hormone link here, and I
yeah,
haven't been able to get help for years.
right. Yeah. And that makes sense to me. And which is why we just had a picture of Diane and her daughter. Diane had rheumatoid arthritis, and in her program, through balancing of her hormones, her joint pain went from like 10 out of 10, and her finger nodules were so big she couldn't wear a ring.
Wow.
Within like a month, I mean, with balancing her hormones and the other things that pillars that she did in the program, pain went down to almost nothing. She was able to do cartwheels. And that photo that she just had, I would love to show that photo. Her daughter was really struggling with heavy periods and some of the same exact patterns Diane was. She was able to, her daughter actually played full out. I remember Diane's daughter in the program on video, checking out, listening, and learning with her mom. And guess who got her hormones tested and who busted and fixed those heavy periods lickety split like that? Her mom helping her with what she learned. So I
How
love that. Her mom became a hormone expert.
Yes. And that's what you're doing. You're training people to think like you, and you're giving them the knowledge to be able to understand, be their own advocate, and then be able to help not only themselves, but future generations and those other people in their family that
Yeah.
so desperately need it.
Yeah, and going back to how I learned how to do this, because we talked about who is a hormone expert. What does it take to really become a hormone expert? Like I went into early menopause at the age of 36,
And
and
were you told at the time what? That was just you were getting older, right?
yeah, I was told that, Maggie, you were just getting older, and I was like, no, no way, I'm 36. I'm not 86. I mean, right? So in my menopause, I actually had several patients who said, "Hey, Dr. Maggie, I'd love for you to read this book to learn more about bioidentical hormones." And I read it. It made total scientific sense to me. And there was no resource for me to learn about it anywhere. So I ended up calling a local compounding pharmacy, bless her heart, Denise. And I said, "Hey, I don't know anything about this. I don't even know how to test my hormones, prescribe hormones, anything, but I have myself and patients I want to learn how to help." She said, "Let me take pity on you. Let me take you under my wing." And she taught me. And that's how it started. And the interesting thing is, then I started finding out, oh, there are through learning case by case, going through with this compounding pharmacist, and then finding out that naturopaths have some training in hormones. I started going to naturopathic conferences and learning, none of which is available to MDs. It's almost like I had to go in the down low in the back of the room, be like, "I'm the MD, huh?" Like, "No, I'm an ND. I'm not." Uh, and I was like, this is a whole new world. And believe it or not, there were so few MDs in Portland at that time or anywhere in the US that was trained in bioidentical hormones. That was also the exact same time Oprah interviewed Suzanne Summers, and Suzanne Summers came out with a book about hormones. And of course, when you read that book, I'm not advocating that. Okay. But it raised up the bar to have the conversation, is that women do not have to put up with this shit.
Hmm.
There are testing, there is solutions, there are patterns, not necessarily that one, but there are solutions with testing and possibly prescribing hormones. So I started doing that. I became known in Portland for being a medical doctor that was trained and dispensing and evaluating women and men with bioidentical hormone treatment. So I was a hormone expert first. And interestingly, and what I found was, being a hormone expert and prescribing hormones, which I took myself, that it helped maybe 70% of the people.
Okay.
Okay. But then what I realized was, after a little while, 30% of people, I kept having to adjust their hormones and nothing worked.
Mm.
And they started to have other symptoms, and they started to have weird symptoms that other people don't. When I pulled them off hormones or adjusted dose, their joints would hurt, or they would have really brain fog, depressed. They were having way more reactions to the bioidentical hormones than others. And I realized in myself, I was like, that happened to me. In the first 6 months I took bioidentical hormones, first 3 months I was like, oh, and then the last 3 months I was like, that isn't doing it. I'm still losing hair. I'm still gaining weight. I'm still fat. I'm still tired, and I realized in that process, I figured out, oh my God, I have Hashimoto's, I have autoimmune disease. Then
Diagnosed it yourself, basically.
it dawned on me, and I was like, oh my God, maybe these people that take bioidentical hormones that don't improve, or that I have to adjust their dose a lot, have more to it that's going on. Maybe they have autoimmune disease.
Mhm.
So I started testing. I started listening, and I realized, heck yes, they do. And so, like them, I thought, okay, I'm going to have to attack more than just give hormones. So I started looking at can I do with autoimmune disease naturally? Because there are no natural tools in the medical world.
None.
Right? So I'm not going to get on chronic pain meds for my fibromyalgia. I'm not going to be like getting on Prozac for the rest of my life. Right. And so I looked at what were natural things I could do for autoimmunity. I started implementing those. That's the 5 pillars, everybody. This is what Blood, Sweat, and Tears developed, the 5 pillars. If
Mhm.
you guys want to learn what the 5 pillars are to turn around autoimmunity, that it took me the last 26 years to perfect. Type in the chat right now, 5 pillars, and we'll share the 5 pillars training with you. Go ahead and do that right now. But anyway, what I found was that when I actually worked on my autoimmunity, guess what happened?
Everything turned around.
I reversed my menopause.
That's
Like,
and that can't be. People say that's not possible, I'm sure.
I'm living proof of that, because what happened at 36, I actually had a test called the FSH that showed my menopause was full blown. It was like in the 80s. That's crazy. And I was told my ovaries were dead. And then when I found out it was autoimmune disease and I started working on autoimmune disease and calming the autoimmune attack down, I was 36 at the time. About 18 months later, I did bioidentical hormones and then I had to stop it. Didn't really stop working. I worked on autoimmunity. 18 months later, my periods came back. All my hormones came back and started to measure normal. And I didn't actually hit real menopause till 10 years later when I was 48. And the second time, way more gracefully, thank you very much, because guess what? The first time wasn't actually real menopause. The first time was a menopause that's caused by an autoimmune attack against my ovaries and my adrenals that shut my hormones down because the attack was so aggressive. When I pulled that attack back, my ovaries was like, I'm not dead yet. Excuse me.
You still had yep.
Exactly. So that's why a lot of people are like thinking like, oh my God, I'm in menopause. There's nothing I can do to balance hormones. Bull. People are like, I've had a hysterectomy. I can't balance hormones. Bull. People, like there's at any stage in your life, you should know what symptoms are hormonal. Get the checklist. If you want the hormone checklist, put it in the comment section right now. Check your messages later. And message requests later in your Facebook Messenger, and we will send you the hormone checklist, right? But my point being is that what was I just talking about? I'm almost missed my point.
Well, you were talking about how you were really able to turn around your own menopause. You got out of it by just balancing your hormones. And then, and maybe we touch on this later, but you just briefly mentioned when you went through real menopause, it was so much easier. And you don't always hear about that happening. I can speak, hope my mom's okay with me saying this, but she has been experiencing hot flashes for like 15 years going through menopause. And what I'm hearing from you is that's just not normal.
So why do some women have worse hormonal swings at any time in their life? Why do some women have early menopause? Why do some people have late menopause? Okay. Why do African American women have way more fibroids and hysterectomies? Why do more Indian women have a lot of PCOS? Okay. There are actually genetic bases for these autoimmune related hormonal shifts that everyone's completely missing. And so learning about that, I was able to pull the autoimmune attack back. And then my ovaries are like, I'm waking up. I'm going to function normally. And the hormone balance fed the autoimmune calming as well. Because when you have these hormone shifts either up or down, you're really turning on autoimmunity. And then it's like the chicken or the egg, right? So it's so important. But yet I have not heard a single, any physician actually mention this link or even know how to treat it, diagnose, treat it more, or even teach other people how to deal with it. No autoimmune physician have said what I'm saying about the link between hormonal shifts and autoimmunity. And that was learned from my own experience with myself, and then later with thousands of people with autoimmune disease and hormonal imbalances. And our clinic became very it was one of the clinics with the most autoimmune patients in Oregon, because we developed a reputation. They can fix it. Nobody else can fix it. They can fix it. But it started out with my journey into going into hormone balancing for myself because of my own issues, that was triggered actually by autoimmunity.
You're 100% right that no other doctors are doing this, because I was searching far and wide, struggling with it for years. I know many others were as well. I want to bring up this comment from somebody that just posted. Um, Here it is. I had a total hysterectomy when I was 32. I've
Yeah.
been off and on HRT patches, cream, under tongue compounds for 23 years,
Yeah.
55 now, suffering from hair loss, fatigue, trigger finger, pain in my hands, can't lose weight. My doctor says hormone levels are normal.
Okay, that's really bullshit. Excuse my French. I'm sorry, Bible Belt.
But
Uh,
but it just goes to show you, doctors are not trained in this. They do not understand the connections that you have been able, through a lot of hard work and perseverance, to establish.
But I really want to talk about this point about people saying your hormones are normal. First of all, good luck getting your hormones checked because they don't know how to test your hormones. So there's specific times you should check a man or a woman's hormones, okay?
Mhm.
Depending on whether they're menstruating, not menstruating, how old they are, or whatever. The other thing too is that there are also functional ranges for these hormones of what's normal and abnormal. And most importantly, number 3 is this, which is that it's not looking at, oh, is progesterone normal or not? Is estrogen normal or not? Is what's the relationship between these hormones? That's what I'm calling a pattern.
Mhm.
There is zero education, even currently to MDs, about what are these patterns that are really common for people that have a high hormone symptom load that doctors don't even understand. They'll say, oh, your hormones are fine. And I will tell you universally, your hormones are not fine. I have not seen one autoimmune person with normal hormones, not one.
I believe it. And
Mhm.
you have somehow been able to figure out, it's like cracking the code, in my opinion. You figured out these patterns, and now through your program and through your masterclass, you're able to impart this knowledge.
I think I love the fact that in our program, Transform Autoimmune Disease Naturally, we are looking at what is it going to take to really turn around autoimmunity using the 5 pillars, of which one of the pillars is hormone balancing. But all the other pillars also feed and work with that hormone balancing, which is why it works for autoimmune disease. Okay. And nobody else is doing this with autoimmune disease. So good luck trying to get your autoimmune disease under control, in remission, or better if you don't master hormones. None of your doctors know how to do that. Okay. So that's like such a missing piece. It's painful. It's really painful. I had to live through that. I had to learn it myself. But then we do have also a separate program called My Hormone MasterClass. And if you guys want to learn more about My Hormone MasterClass, we're going to put a link below for My Hormone MasterClass. It's just on that one pillar. That's it. Some people are like, I don't want or need the whole kit and caboodle, and I want to really focus on hormones first.
Mhm.
Well, that's what My Hormone Masterclass was made for. In this program, My Hormone Masterclass is a do-it-yourself program where you actually will get a saliva hormone test kit. You're going to have video modules of me training you on these specific patterns and your results. And then finally, there's a consultation. Currently, My Hormone Masterclass is offered with a consultation with me after you received your results and have reviewed the trainings. There's a consultation at the end of that to make sure that you really know your shit from somebody who really knows her shit. So then you know exactly what to do and how it ties in with autoimmunity. So that's called My Hormone Masterclass. We're going to put that link in the comment section. You can learn more about that. You can also chat our team. If you're like, I don't know if I should do My Hormone Masterclass versus the whole program of Transform Autoimmune, I'm going to put a link below right now so you can chat our team just to learn more about both programs, or we can learn more about you to help you figure out which is best for you. But both of these programs, it's about educating you, because I am here to point out to you that, like myself, before I learned about hormones, I was blind and dumb about hormones, and I didn't want you to know. This is the state of where conventional medicine is. None of them know, and they don't want you to know they don't know. Okay. So then as a result, they give you wrong answers, dismiss you, and there is zero chance for a patient like you or me back then, and even now, to get the help that we actually need, because we are the one that has to get educated. Because here's the deal. Here's the thing, Anne. Many people looking at this are going to be like, I'm just going to look in the natural section or take some herbs, or I'm going to go find a natural doctor who's a hormone expert, and that's going to solve all these problems.
Right.
I'm going to tell you, I have a huge issue with these quote unquote hormone experts.
Because what are they really focusing on? Because that is, my functional medicine doctor was actually asking me the same thing. She said, I know you need help. You need to find a hormone specialist. The only ones I know are the type of specialists that can provide you with bioidentical hormones and pellets and things
Pellets.
like that.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when you go see a hormone specialist now, it's the state of where natural and functional medicine is. Because insurance doesn't cover these types of visits, these doctors have to make money. How do
Mhm.
they make money is by charging either a lot for those visits and or charging a lot for procedures and services.
Right.
So the most common hormone balancing thing they do is shoot you a pellet that lasts like 3 months or 6 months into you, sometimes up to $1,000 a pop.
Mm.
And I can tell you right now, taking hormones or hormone pellets doesn't equal hormone balance.
And talk
Okay.
about why.
Well, we've seen it in the program. In the program, I've had people come in on hormones, on pellets, and they have the most messed up hormone patterns I've ever seen. And they may have felt a little bit better or may not have, but then they're stuck with this in their body. But their autoimmune systems go berserk because remember what I said. If
Mhm.
hormones are going down really fast or going up really fast, these times are a really hormonally vulnerable time that triggers an autoimmune attack. So I see them on this end where they're like, oh my God, I got a pellet in, or I've been getting pellets, or I'm taking these hormones. And this year I got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And
Right.
last year I got diagnosed with lupus, and now I have neuropathy. This is the common pattern here. Their
The
hormones are not balanced. And if anything, it's still continuing to feed, if not even worsening sometimes, their autoimmune attack.
the march of the autoimmune attack continues even despite getting these hormones treated that are not naturally being balanced.
Yeah.
So really going through your program is how people are learning about what these patterns are and then how to address it. And I do
Well,
know that we do have a case study we're going to
I do
share.
have a case study. And here's the thing, though. I want you guys to know that, look, even if you don't do any of my programs, okay? Even if you don't even look at any of our educational content on supplementation, I mean, I really urge every single one of you guys that what light bulb aha moment has really lit for you, that what am I saying that's really ringing true for you? You know, and the other thing is, what's one thing you can do? I mean, maybe if this spurs you to say, hey, I'm going to list my symptoms here and I'm going to speak with your team to get some videos to help. I'm going to get the hormone checklist, write the hormone checklist there. You know, I'm going to learn more about my hormone masterclass. I'm going to go and check out some of your videos that train people on certain hormone patterns and supplementation. Go and learn. Education here that is about hormone balance is bonus here.
Yes.
Okay, just do that. But you have to tell us what help you need. So comment in the comment section below. Get yourself started just to learn more. Okay, it's a bonus. These are all bonus trainings as part of this Facebook group. So do it. Now, we have a case study. I'd love to have Roseanna pop in. I'd love to go over and Roseanna, welcome.
You got to unmute your microphone.
There we go. Perfect.
Oh.
So Roseanna, you graduated from a program how long ago?
It's been exactly almost a year.
And she's a typical patient that joins our program because Roseanna, I mean, you were dealing with lichen sclerosis, which is an autoimmune attack against skin, connective tissue. And what kind of symptoms were you having prior to joining the program?
Oh, I lived with years of excruciating pain, vaginal dryness. The skin down there, I'm just probably TMI, but it looked like it was dead. I mean, dead. And it was very fragile. Intimacy was very painful. And I also, my pelvic floor sometimes felt like it was falling like out of me. So I feel like I didn't have any tone down there as
Right.
well. So that was.
And I think, well, as I recall, did you not have early menopause as well? Because that's a really common pattern.
Yes, I did. I had menopause around 38 is when, well,
early menopause sisters, autoimmune sisters.
yeah, we have a lot of the same stories.
What the heck?
I know.
Because, I mean, I think I remember, like, even though you graduated a year ago, I think you had brain fog. Did you have hair loss as well?
I did have hair loss as well.
Yeah. And then pain, like severe pain. And then periods wise, since you had early menopause, no periods since the age of 38, right?
Well, yeah, I assume they put me on the pill after the birth of my second daughter, because at 31, all of a sudden my periods were, 2 weeks long, heavy bleeding. And so they said, let's put you back on the pill. And I was on it nonstop until I was 37. So then I took myself off the pill because I just said, I want to know what my body's doing naturally. And then my period never came back. So that's
So,
only when they finally tested my hormones. Is
so
when
here's
I,
the thing is, so many of us get put on these decades along of birth control pills. That was me.
I was.
I was, because we have all these, you can't make this up. All three women here were put on long-term birth control pills, not necessarily for birth control, but to control quote unquote hormone symptoms.
Yes.
What happened to me was after I got off the birth control pill, I couldn't get pregnant for the longest ass time because it really suppressed my hormone production. And that whole birth control pill and even getting on and off it triggered my autoimmune disease. So that's my story with that. What about you, Roseanna?
yes, it's funny that you had mentioned after how you had mastitis. After I had my first daughter, I had mastitis as well. I had when you just said that, I thought, what? Oh my gosh, I had that as well. Terrible insomnia, postpartum depression. And then when I tried to get pregnant, 3.5 years later, I was trying to get pregnant with my second daughter, and it took a long time to get pregnant. So,
yeah. And it wasn't until you said that you got off the birth control pill, found that you had no periods for a period of time, then they tested you and they were like, oh, now you're in early menopause, but you're only 38. You weren't like 88.
And I said, this is not normal. I have, 3 older sisters, and none of my sisters have gone through menopause early. So why am I going through early menopause?
Autoimmune gene.
Pardon?
Autoimmune gene. That's the interesting thing, is not every daughter is going to have autoimmunity show up the exact same way.
No, but they all have different things going on, diabetes and severe allergies, skin rashes,
check.
Yes, it's all over. And my mom had, my mom had 6 children in 8 years, and she had lots of,
hormonal shifts.
Yeah, she had bipolar depression, hypothyroidism,
and she now knows autoimmune.
Yes, diabetes.
Didn't you find out during the program you actually have autoimmune thyroid as well?
Yes, I get it tested all the time, but I'm in the normal range. So they never, and I even asked, I asked a lot of questions. I think I'm one of those patients.
I love that you do
questions. But, I said, my mother has hypothyroidism. I think it runs in the family. Are you sure my numbers are in the normal range? They're like, yeah, they're in the normal range. So
what did you learn in the program about your thyroid?
Well, I've learned that I have very low, I had like no total T4 was very low, and my T3 was very low. And so because of that, I knew that I had hypothyroidism.
Yeah. And here's the thing. So they did test your hormones eventually when you had no periods. What did they tell you about those hormones?
They just told me, what was her words? Oh, something about my hormone levels were the levels of an 85-year-old. It was kind of like, it is so long past menopause. Because I said, am I in perimenopause? They're like, oh no, you are so far beyond. And I said, okay, is like, that's not normal. But she acted like, oh well. Yeah. And then
you're like, she's like, your hormones be dead, your ovaries be dead. And you're like, what? I'm 38.
Right.
Right? It is a big deal. That's not normal.
And Roseanna, I'm so curious to hear, you listed off your symptoms for us, and the list was long. You talked about trouble with intimacy, your skin was having issues, there was hair loss, there were so many problems. And hearing the symptoms is one thing. I want to hear about what was living with that like? What was life like having all of those symptoms? And I'm sure it was impacting your life.
Yeah, it was. It was hard before, this program. I really didn't talk about it. I shared it with, my sisters and those closest to me, but I really didn't talk about it a lot. And, I'm very private about, my life, my sex life. And so it's not something that I, would even talk to other people about, like, is this normal? So I was just kind of hiding from it.
Mm.
You know, most people didn't know that I was as sick as I was all these years because, you know, I look so healthy and, you know, I take care of myself and I eat right.
Roseanna, you know, I call autoimmune disease the invisible illness. It's the invisible cancer.
Oh, I know. And so when I tell everybody I went through this program to turn around, they're like, what? Like, yeah, I know. I have all these issues that, due to my imbalance of my hormones. And, you know, that was a huge trigger to some of the other things that I have, uveitis and glaucoma.
We're going to talk about this. So my question is, what did you learn about your hormones when you went through the program? You did your testing, you went through the modules, we troubleshoot your patterns. What did you figure out about your hormones that was new and different?
Well, I learned that I had estrogen dominance, and I learned that I had
your regular MD's like, that don't exist, girl. What the heck is that? That's not real. It's like levitation or something.
Oh, well, I know. I brought my paper in to my gynecologist just recently because I need to retest my hormones. And I had her look at the graphs, and she said, well, for postmenopausal, that is where I would expect your estrogen and your progesterone to be. She goes, your testosterone I see is very high, so I'll retest that. And so that was the only thing I got her to retest. And my testosterone is like now in a great range. So it is, it's gone down.
So she had PCOS, by the way. Not only did she have estrogen dominance, she had PCOS, both. And the thing is, this also dispels the theory. A lot of people are like, I'm in menopause, then my hormones don't matter. No, you can have menopause and still be estrogen dominant, still have PCOS, still have a autoimmune shit show because of it. And that's a perfect example of that. And your MD said, oh, those two are in the normal range, not looking at the relationship between the two. Because do you guys know that estrogen dominance is one of the biggest patterns that feeds autoimmune disease?
Yes.
I believe it. I know in parts of my own cycle, when my estrogen rises, I experience the most autoimmune symptoms.
Yes.
But what results were you able, once you discovered that you had these patterns, what were you able to do? And what were your results?
Well, I think, you know, within like the first week, my insomnia improved because I started working on my my blood sugar balance. So that was huge, which of course we know that contributes to your hormones and causing it to go, you know, wonky. Also, when I went through and had my food mapping and started clearing the water of all the things, I found out I had a leaky gut. I mean, I had so many foods that I was intolerant to, but I didn't even know. Like, I don't have my gastrointestinal tract does not tell me that things are bothering me, but instead,
I was fine. It's not the food.
Yeah, it's not the food, but like all the food was causing, you know, all of the other things that are all the mystery symptoms. I mean, I even had like, I've never been diagnosed with neuropathy, but my fingertips were.
Me too. What are we, neuropathy sisters?
Yeah, and cold all the time. Like I would come in from the winter and then have to go and put my hand on hot water at Target, you know, before I go shopping and stuff. Yeah. And that went away. And then of course the program taught you how to eat properly, to eat all those things, the cruciferous vegetables that help clear out your, you know, the hormones, the excess hormones in your system.
Yeah.
And then your supplement also huge.
So what I'm hearing is every single pillar, learning about how to supplement, how to eat, all of this had to do with it. I think mindset was huge for you as well.
Oh, yes. I mean, like a lot of people, there were so many people who were so sick in the program, and you're sitting on Zoom calls with them, and you're thinking like, sorry, it makes me emotional when I think about them, but you think they are so sick and I am functioning, you know, I'm functioning. So I can live with this, you know.
And then you see them get better.
Yeah. But, you know, it's like we're used to functioning. And it's because we're so used to being sick.
Yeah.
We're used to our symptoms. And, so I had to learn that I was definitely worthy of this program.
I saw you change. week
Yeah.
by week. It was like the Roseanna who trusted herself, had confidence in herself, and who put her own health in high worth. I saw her come out every week.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you feel that, Roseanna? Do you feel like a different person physically and perhaps emotionally as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I learned that in the program with the mindset work that I am a pleaser and I
Oh, yeah.
worry about everybody else except myself. Um, yeah. So, I just kind of ignored everything throughout the years. I mean, I went to the doctors and tried to take care of things when I needed to, but it wasn't like I didn't focus on it. And it took me to retire from teaching to focus on me. And I found this program, and it just like changed my life.
Rosanna, because this is a year later, and people always think, oh, maybe it's just a fluke that they got better after 2 months. Like, where are you a year after you've done the program? How are your symptoms now, even compared to the end of the program?
Oh my gosh. Well, okay, my sleep is better. I'm not as anxious because I've got control. I mean, you've empowered me to take control of my health. Um, One symptom that we didn't talk about which was a huge one, was that I had glands like these were all swollen. I had a big grape here. I had them all on my back.
Yeah.
I had like my lymph nodes were swollen. I'm not talking just for a little short period of time. I mean, I had an ENT watching these for years
Yeah.
because they were getting smaller
Watch.
and getting larger. Yeah.
What are we waiting for it to turn to cancer or something?
Well,
Like,
they did remove one because after watching it, one got really big, and he said we need to remove it and make sure it's not cancerous. But I didn't, I didn't have
But
a lot
you
of.
know now why you had those lymph nodes? I mean, where are they now, first of all?
They're gone. That happened, when I started cleaning up my diet. Like they're gone, every single one of them.
It was autoimmunity, allergies, reaction to infection. That's why they were big. And those are all turnaroundable. Those are
Right.
reversible causes. And meanwhile, we're just sitting here like, let's watch and wait and see if it's going to turn into cancer or not while you have this Goomba sticking out of your neck. And then the other thing was, what about your visual symptoms? I mean, you had uveitis and glaucoma. Were you even, was your ophthalmologist, are you even aware that there was an autoimmune link with them?
No, I started questioning it when I started looking at some of the other things. I connected when I got the lichen sclerosis, and I started, the time that I was stalking you, I started making all these connections, and I thought, wow, perhaps this glaucoma and uveitis is also related to my autoimmunity.
Bingo.
Right. And I asked that question because it happened when I was recovering from shingles.
Yep.
So when I had shingles, that's when
I had shingles. What the heck?
I know. I had a massive flare, and that's when everything just kind of went crazy.
Did you see these patterns though, Roseanna?
Yeah.
At 36, I had a shingles flare on my left hip the same time I went into early menopause.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Now, didn't your ophthalmologist say that the uveitis and the glaucoma was not autoimmune related, correct?
Right.
So
Yeah.
what has happened to them since?
What, my eyes? My eyes the uveitis is gone. I mean, they check it. I have two different ophthalmologists, and the ophthalmologist that checks my uveitis, he's like, no inflammation, no inflammation, no inflammation. My ophthalmologist is really shocked how low my eye pressure is, my interoptic pressure. He's but he's like, we're still going to watch this. I'm on 3 different drops, and I took one of my drops because I was having side effects from it, and I took myself off of them. And he said, and he's like, that didn't even affect your pressure. So then I asked him, so is my glaucoma related to autoimmunity? If my interoptic pressure is low and like I'm not having any issues with it, could it be?
Yes. And hell yes.
I know. Well, like, what do you do? Because my ophthalmologist, I need him. So I'm afraid to just like go rogue and do my own thing with my eyes. So, that's the one doctor that I'm, pretty, I guess I'm pretty disciplined about doing what he tells me to do. I have used a lot of the knowledge that I've learned from you to question it.
Yeah.
And
But
so
you've also learned the skill of actually learning to ask questions of your doctors, inviting the right doctors to collaborate with you and work with you. Like he said, oh, maybe you don't need it. Right. So
right,
I think that's another skill set is when you're recognizing what the autoimmune symptoms are, what the hormone related symptoms are, and they're all starting to be in remission, and you actually have results, data, and pressure measurements, you can actually say to your doctor and say, hey, can I try going off this drop, or can we do less of it? The right doctors will be like, yeah, because we have data to back it up. It's
right,
not, you're not levitating and guessing. Like you have data to back this up. Remember,
right.
I tell people like, hope is for breakfast. People are like, oh, this gives me so much hope. Okay, fine. But hope is for breakfast. We end the day with results and outcomes, objective data that there's improvement and outcomes, which is what happened here.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
I'm fascinated by this. And Dr. Maggie, maybe you can speak to this because you don't really hear about people turning around glaucoma, people turning around uveitis.
We do.
Yeah, right, you do. Roseanna did it. But in general, you don't see that happen, right? This is unusual for people who aren't addressing the pillars in the way that you're addressing them.
Right.
I think it's just crazy to me. Like, this is why the hormone checklist, all right? You guys want to learn more about what symptoms are actually hormone related at any age? Put hormone checklist in the chat right now. Okay, so and check your messages. Let's get you to recognize so many links of hormones to many of these symptoms, right? It's not just your hot flashes and insomnia. Her glaucoma and the pressure inside her eye. Did you guys know that's hormonally related too? And I'll tell you, none of her hormone, does she even have hormone doctors? None of her hormone doctors even know that. And her ophthalmologist doesn't even know that. But hormone imbalances will cause worsening of the lubrication in your eye, will cause changes in also the health of your optic nerve, will also change the pressure in glaucoma as well. And I see it all the time.
Yeah, my pressure fluctuates, and some days it's, I can feel that some days may be weirder than other days, but especially when I was teaching full time, I always had issues with my pressures. But now I just feel so good. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you've got your eye, it's got a mucosal layer like everything else, and
Bingo.
I've got issues with other mucosal layers.
God, she's so smart. Winner, chicken dinner. Because here's the thing. Like, think about this. Okay, let's blow your mind some more. Whoever's listening, lichen sclerosis. People think, oh, it's just skin in the vagina. What is skin? It's a connective tissue. It's just another what we call mixed connective tissue disorder. And so it's not going to be, and where do we have connective tissue? All over our body, including the lens of your eye, right?
Yeah.
There's connective tissue everywhere. Connective tissue in your scalp, in your hair, in your blood vessels with blood pressure even, so people with cardiovascular disease. We have Heidi who had a heart attack and the cardiac numbers through the roof. Once she balanced her hormones and pulled back her autoimmunity, all her autoimmune symptoms and her heart numbers all started to go down. This isn't a cardiovascular program, but how did it improve? Because there's a link here. Connective tissue connects skin, bone, cartilage, but also things like artery walls, right? And lenses of your eye. So there's a connection here with all of that. I never look at Roseanna or anyone else that comes in. They're like, oh, I have lichen sclerosis. Oh, it's a vaginal hormone problem. Let's just fix that. You're done. No. What about the rest of all these? They're all linked. And when people come in and say, if only my vaginal dryness could get better, I'd be thrilled. I'm like, you're thinking too small.
Right.
There's a lot that can be accomplished.
Because they're all connected, right?
And Roseanna, it sounds to me like your life has totally changed over the last year. I'm curious to hear, I'm sure you probably can't even quantify it, but what is life like now compared to a year prior?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, I feel so good. I feel so blessed that I've been able to go through this program. And I'm there and more present with my husband, more present to my daughters. I've shared with Dr. Maggie that my daughter, when she was a teenager, had all of those same patterns. She's PCOS and she suffers from depression, and she has been diagnosed with antiphospholipid syndrome, and they think she has
Autoimmune.
lupus. And
Autoimmune.
so it's like, to be able to be here and to help her is that's priceless. I mean, I did it not only for myself, I did it for my daughters, and you know, and now I'm recognizing things in my siblings, and so I'm always giving them a lecture about what I've learned. I always, not lecture, I guess that's not the word I should use. I'm always sharing my knowledge with them because I care about all of them. So yeah.
Love that.
It's changed your life, and it's changed those around you. It's changed your relationships. It's changed, basically, it sounds like every aspect of what you deal with day to day, and the things that are important to you.
Yes, absolutely.
And Roseanna's a typical case.
Yeah.
Like, this is a typical story. And it's so funny. I can't believe I do believe how many of our symptoms actually overlap. Remember in the program, how many people with all different diagnoses, and you're like, you had that too? I had that too. I had that too. Like, it's crazy.
That's what makes the program so rich, is that you can sit here and you can listen to everybody, you know, talk about all their results.
Yeah.
And like, wow, okay. And you learn so much, and not just only for yourself, but like as I'm recognizing all of these things in all my siblings and my daughters as well. So it's just an educational program that is really priceless. It's hard to explain how valuable it has been for me to go through this.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, and your symptoms and your turnaround. I think it's probably been very inspiring for people out there that can relate to a lot of the things that you went through.
Thanks for joining us, Roseanna.
Thank you. It was so good to see you guys. And
Miss you.
You know, it reminds me, Dr. Maggie, of how you talk about when you're saying so many people share these symptoms. It doesn't even matter what the diagnosis is. And that is a wild concept for some people. I'm still trying to get that through my head, because I'm still in some cases searching for what is my exact diagnosis. But people have to get in a different mindset of, does it really matter, or do we just start addressing what's fueling all of this?
You know, I hate to share this story, but we actually had someone who was pretty rude on the phone with our team today. And it was somebody, and her main question was, you know, I don't have a diagnosis. And, you know, we're like, big whoop-de-doo. I mean, literally about 30% of the people we talk to do not have a diagnosis. And if anybody knows me and has seen any of our videos, they know I say, I don't give a rat's ass what your diagnosis is or isn't. What I care about is, do you understand that there's an autoimmune link, or that it's autoimmune related? And do you understand, or do you want to end it?
Right.
And what are we going to do here? We're going to sit here and just wait until we get a diagnosis and then we do something about it. It's one of those things where people are like, I'm going to wait till you get cancer and then we'll do something about it, when it's a preventable thing.
Right.
And that's how I feel about it. So it was interesting. I mean, we were pretty factual, and we were like, it doesn't make a difference to us whether you have a diagnosis or not. But some people are just like, well, if I don't have a diagnosis, you can't help me. And we're like, well, that's really not an issue for us. Is it an issue for you?
No. Right? You can watch your symptoms hopefully go away either way.
Well, it took me years to actually get a diagnosis of fibromyalgia. It took me years to get a diagnosis of mixed connective tissue disorder. But why do I need to wait for that diagnosis to prevent it from happening in the first place? So on my watch, on your watch, like, I don't want, like, let's say Roseanna's daughter with the antiphospholipid, you know, on her watch, my watch, and her daughter's watch, me and them all will make sure that there isn't even going to be her first flare. Right? There's not even going to be a flare. There's not going to be some end organ damage from it, because this is all preventable. And even if her daughter didn't have antiphospholipid and it's just PCOS, isn't that enough to know that your daughter has PCOS and it's pre-diabetic, which is a known autoimmune disease? You're like, thank God I have that information. So to me, no matter what stage of life you're in, no matter whether you have a diagnosis or not, whether you had a hysterectomy, whether you are, you know, whatever the issue is, or whether you have an infant, hormones, autoimmunity, these genetics clues are really important to get, because the earlier you intervene, the easier, cheaper, bigger the differences that you're going to make and
Yeah.
more impact you're going to make in your autoimmunity for you and your children.
Not to mention the less suffering you're going to have to deal with,
What
which
about that?
exactly.
No, I'm going to wait till I get a diagnosis 20 years from now, and then I'll do something about it. Meanwhile, I'm
Yeah.
in a wheelchair now. No, I just got a diagnosis. I'm in a wheelchair. You whoop-de-doo. Like, like, what are we waiting for here? And that's the conversation we had before about don't be an ostrich, right?
Mhm.
Right?
Absolutely.
Don't be an ostrich. The sooner or earlier you intervene, that's the best time you're going to intervene, because that's going to be the healthiest and easiest time point with which you can intervene. The later and more time you wait, the bigger the gap you actually have to jump to get better.
It may take longer too to turn it around.
It will, right?
Something that we just brushed on that I want to make sure that we do talk about is men. And
Yeah.
this is not just exclusive an issue for women dealing with hormones and
Right.
autoimmunity. I know that there's men that go through your program, and you said almost everybody that goes through your program has an issue with hormones, and some of
I
them are
mean,
men.
check out Tyler here, like Tyler was, is a very young man, and he was father of 2 kids and had life-threatening Crohn's, and literally was told that he was going to die. He has to have colon surgery, and he was probably going to die anyway. And I remember his call with our team. He was literally on the toilet, and he came out and he was like laying on the couch, and his mom, Natalie, was there saying like, what can we do for him? We're willing to do anything, everything for him. And our team was like, Tyler, here's exactly how you can turn this around, but you have to believe it and you have to be willing to do the work. And he was like, I don't have a choice. I'm going to die anyway, even if I get surgery. Right. And literally week 3 and 4, Mr. Tyler, Mr. Prima Madonna, was like sitting here lifting weights. All the women on the call were like, oh, how you doing? And it's funny, biggest part of turning around Crohn's for Tyler was actually his hormones.
Wow.
And he'll tell you that. We actually have an interview actually with Tyler. If you guys are interested, if you're a man who want to learn more about autoimmunity and hormones, we actually did an interview with Tyler a year and a half after the program about men and autoimmunity. If you want men and autoimmunity, type that in chat right now. If you're a man with autoimmunity, or a man with autoimmunity or hormonal issues, write men with autoimmunity below and start a chat with our team and learn more about that. And it's not just a young man that happens with. We have, Jim's been through Jim's in our program right now. We had Greg who went through our program. We had tons of men go through our program. And Jim was dealing with a huge autoimmune issue. And there's Greg who was dealing with MS, and his wife's like, thank God we fixed his hormones. But like with MS, here's the other thing. Neurological disorders really, really need to have hormone balance. Many of these hormones are very protective against neurological damage. So the sooner and earlier you intervene and get your hormones balanced, the more you protect the neural tissue, your brain tissue in your brain. So how important is that? His neurologist doesn't even know that. And yet there's tons of research around the hormones in being neurobrain protective. Why aren't we talking about that for MS, for men and women, or for Parkinson's, right?
Absolutely. And I think some of the big themes I'm hearing here are it doesn't matter what age you are, you can balance your hormones at any age. Doesn't matter male or female, you still need to address this. And if you're having mystery symptoms, chances are there's a hormonal connection.
Chances are, okay, 100% there's a hormonal connection. You can take that to the bank. Because because I've never met someone with autoimmune disease that didn't have a big hormonal shit show.
And that's why it is one of the primary, most important pillars. You have a whole separate class dedicated to this, as well as it being a part of your primary program. You have the hormonal checklist. If you want any of these resources, definitely just type a comment in the chat, and the team will absolutely reach out to you with the hormone checklist, videos, any kind of bonus information you may need so that you can get help. Because Dr. Maggie, I know that's really all you want. You want people to understand this. You want them to get help in whatever way is going to be best for them.
Well, and the other thing is, this is a community. Our Facebook group is just hit 55,000. And I don't know about you, but I want to plan a 55,000 Facebook group celebration. We're the largest Facebook group around autoimmunity on the planet. But I would love for you guys who are in the community with us Tell me if you agree or disagree. What has been your experience with hormones? Can you share in the comment section? Let's start a conversation in the chat. Share your experience, your opinion. What have you been told? I'd love to hear more from you guys just about share in this community. And you're not alone. And there's so many of us that are going through the same thing as you've just witnessed. So if you guys can light up the comment section. And here's the other thing. If you know someone who can benefit from hearing this conversation, type their name in the comment section right now.
And we know you do, because so many people are dealing with this hormonal imbalance and trying to get answers. You're mentioning comments this person did, right? This program not just helps with physical symptoms, but it's helped immensely with my mindset. I truly believe that getting to the root of the problem versus just bandaging it, the problem will eventually make things worse. It's the answer. I continue to look forward and I'm excited to get my hormones balanced, understanding the importance. Somebody that's sounds like going through the program right now that's working to get help. So yeah, let us know, what are the symptoms hormonally that you're dealing with? Even if you don't necessarily know that they're hormone related, what symptoms are you dealing with? Put it in the chat, let the team know so that you can get some resources and some help.
Yep.
Dr. Maggie, what else did you want to share with us? I personally want to say that it's incredible to understand that you went through all of this yourself. You really had to have this incredible journey of struggle, unfortunately, and so many things happened to you along the way, but you never gave up. The perseverance involved in this,
didn't have a choice. That's the thing, is when we realize we don't have a choice and this is the fight of our lives, then you start taking action, right? And Anne, I always love this final thought. This is always my final thought, and I really freaking love it, which is this. The difference between someone who saves their own lives and improves the lives of others around them and the person who doesn't is the series of decisions and then actions that they're going to take. So if nothing else, make one decision to do one thing to move yourself forward in your autoimmune journey or hormonal journey. If that's just by writing one word in the comment section, tagging one person, writing the hormone checklist, starting a chat with our team, going to look for some other hormone video resources in the group on YouTube, on my channel, go for it. But you got to make the person who's going to be successful, that they have signs. Success leaves clues. And the clue I'm telling you is you got to make a decision right now to do something. Make the first decision, take the first step. It's a series of decisions and steps that'll make you successful. And that's the difference between people who are successful and those who are not.
Yeah, for those who are listening and for those in the future who may watch this video, I hope you're hearing what Dr. Maggie says, because think about it. What decisions will you make to try to turn this around for yourself? It makes all the difference in the world.
Thank you, Anne, so much for being the host and wonderfully just asking all the right questions and helping Roseanna and I through this.
Well, no, I appreciate everything that you're doing. Thanks for having me be a part of this. And thank you once again for getting so personal with us, sharing what it is that you went through personally to get yourself and your health turned around so that now you can help thousands of others. We appreciate you so much. I speak behalf of everybody in the Facebook group and everybody that's been in your program currently or as an alumni. So thank you so much. And
thanks everybody. Thank you everybody for joining us. Have a wonderful night. Bye.